Hello my friend, welcome to a watercolor tutorial video. Today I will show you how to illustrate this with watercolor. I will keep it simple and beginner friendly. Almost said pet friendly because I was looking at Molly. At the meantime, I will answer a few of your guys' questions regarding learning arts and some of the art struggles. So I hope this video can be relaxing and also helpful for your art journey. So let's get started. I like starting with a light sketch using colored pencil. It's usually something soft like pink. For today's piece, I'm painting a cat and a fox, surrounded by autumn pumpkins and fallen leaves. It's going to have a cozy fall feeling. The sketch doesn't need to be perfect or detailed, just light and gentle. It's really just a guide to help us place the colors later, since the watercolor will layer over them anyway. When I draw, I like to gather some references, and I'm using these little pumpkins today I bought from Walmart as real-life references while I paint. To briefly introduce the tools we'll need for watercolor painting, you will need a few brushes in different shapes and sizes. Some are better for broad strokes, while others help with delicate details and thin lines. You will also need a bottle of water to rinse your brush whenever you change colors. I like to prepare a second bottle of clean water just for mixing with the paint, so the colors stay fresh and not muddy. When I begin painting, I usually start with yellow. I mix a small amount of yellow paint with a lot of water to get a very light, gentle tone. Then I use this soft wash as the base layer, adding it wherever I plan to paint later. It helps give a warm foundation to the whole painting. Same goes for the pumpkins and the fox. For the fox, because it's more orange toned, I begin with a thin layer of orange as the foundation. Also, there is no white paint in watercolor, so if you want to keep any part white, the easiest way is simply not to paint it at all. You just leave that area blank from the beginning, and it will serve as your highlight. One important tip: every time you want to add a new layer, make sure the previous one is completely dry. You can let it air dry, or if you are layering a lot like I do, it's faster to use a hair dryer. To check if it's dry, you can gently touch it with your finger. Now we're going to build up the painting layer by layer. With watercolor, we always start from the lightest color and gradually work our way to the darkest. That's because in watercolor, you can paint a darker color on top of a lighter one, but not the other way around. Here, I accidentally forgot to record the second layer, but it's not a big deal. I will show you everything again in the next step. On the fox, I did a little bit of blending, and I will walk you through that part later, so don't worry, you won't miss anything. For the second layer, I added some orange markings on the cat. Cat fur can be very organic and irregular, so you don't need to follow a strict shape. Just go with what feels right. Every time you paint a large area, make sure it's completely dry before adding the next one. Here's the reference photo I used for the cat. I think she's a female because I heard that cats with 3 colors are usually girls. Now I'm adding the third layer, which is a soft brownish gray fur color. Oh, and don't forget the tiny pink touches on the ears and the nose. For this brownish shade, I mixed the brown with just a little yellow, and here's a quick watercolor tip. If you want the color to look light, add more water. If you want it to look more saturated, add more paint. Now let's add a bit of shadow to the white part of the body. I mixed a tiny bit of pink, gray, and purple to make the soft shadow color, which helps the shape look more three-dimensional. Let's take a look at the fox. We will be using a simple blending technique here. Even though the overall color is orange and red, you can see that on the tail and back it's noticeably darker, so that's where blending comes in. Here's how to do it in watercolor. Start by painting the darkest or most saturated orange where you want the deepest tone. Then rinse your brush and just use clean water to gently drag the edge of the paint outward before it dries. This will create a soft transition from dark to light, giving the fox a smooth, natural look. Time to apply the technique. For the third layer, I'm using orange and a more reddish tone. Let's start from the bottom of the tail. I apply the saturated color along the edge first. Then use a clean water brush to pull the color inward across the tail. This creates a darker outer edge with a soft gradient towards the center. I do the same thing for the back, placing the darkest color there and using clean water to gently pull the color outward toward the head and the legs. Once everything is dry, we move on to my favorite part, adding the black outline. I use my thinnest brush for this. It's a bit tricky and took me a while to practice, so if you are a beginner, feel free to use a black pen or marker instead. I don't outline the entire shape. Instead, I only add lines where I want to emphasize certain features. So the outlines are intentionally left open in some places. This keeps the drawing from looking too stiff. It gives it lighter, more breathable feeling. Also, while inking, I like to add some fur texture along the outlines. These small details really bring the illustration to life. After inking, I darkened some parts of the cat by adding one more layer of brown. Now it looks more complete to me. Once our animal subject is done, I will move on to painting the squashes and pumpkins. This part is a lot easier. First, I paint the base color, starting with yellow and adding a bit of green. For the pumpkins, I begin with a light orange. Remember, in watercolor, if you want a lighter color, just add more water. If you want it to be more saturated, add more paint. Once this layer is dry, I use an orange tone to paint the stripes on the squash. For this one, I mix green and yellow for the stripes, and before it dries, I add a darker green at the bottom to create a nice gradient effect. Later, I move on to painting a few autumn leaves. This time, I want to show you how I create soft gradients by blending different colors together. First, I use a light orange to paint the base on the leaf. While the paint is still wet, I dip my brush into a darker orange and gently tap it onto the surface. Because the base is still wet, the colors naturally blend into each other. To smooth the transition, I rinse my brush, then use clean water to gently soften the edges where the colors meet. The same technique works if I start with a yellowish green base. I add a bit of darker green while it's still wet, and the colors blend beautifully on their own. Just as I was finishing, Molly suddenly jumped onto my chair, so I ended up hugging her with one arm while painting with the other. Here are some questions I got from you guys, and I want to answer them in this video too. The first one is, how do you stay consistent and build an art habit? Honestly, I don't think building a habit is that hard. What's hard is the pressure we put on ourselves to make something good every time. But building an art habit doesn't mean you have to create beautiful or finished pieces. It's kind of like journaling. Some days you just want to dump your thoughts onto the page to clear your mind, and art can work the same way. There are times when I draw grumpy faces or characters sinking in water just because I felt really down or overwhelmed. The other times I just doodle a little while journaling to remember the happy little things from that day. I also like bringing my sketchbook with me and drawing on a bus or outside a cafe. If you want to build an art habit, try drawing for just 5 minutes a day. Honestly, the hardest part is just sitting down and opening your sketchbook. But once you start, even for just a few minutes, it gets so much easier. It doesn't have to feel like a burden or a responsibility. Let it be a moment for yourself to relax and unwind. So please don't put too much pressure on yourself. Another question I got was about perfectionism. To be honest, I used to be a big perfectionist myself, but once I talked about this with a friend who is also an artist, she told me that her feelings toward her own artwork were always like up, done, up, done, 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 up, done, 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 done. That really resonates with me. And I realized it's true for most artists, including me. We actually feel done about our own art much more often than we feel good about it. If we don't share about this, we might think that everyone else is creating perfect, polished pieces all the time, and we are the only one who feels like we're not good enough. But once we start talking about those feelings, we realize that, oh, it's not just me. Everyone feels this way. Maybe you have felt that too? Sometimes I finish a piece and think, wow, I love this one. But the next time I draw, I'll be like, oh, this is terrible. I can't show this to anyone. It's completely normal. And when you feel like your art needs more work, that's actually a good thing. Because if we only stay in our comfort zone, we might feel like we are good, but we are not really growing, feeling like we need to improve. That's how we start improving. So instead of pressuring yourself to be perfect, try to shift the mindset. In the short term, some pieces will turn out better than others, but in the long run, you will see that you are making real progress. And that's what really matters. You are growing step by step. And that's it. This illustration is complete. So that's it for today's video. This is the first tutorial I made, so let me know how you feel. Is it anything not clear enough? Is it too slow, too fast? And let me know if you have other questions regarding art. If you guys like this type of tutorial, I think I'm going to make more in the future. I don't know if I should keep making watercolor or any other types of tutorials like Procreate, digital art, or even journaling, or the ink art, like the manga type of style. I really appreciate your feedback. If you finish this drawing and post them on Instagram, you can tag me at is.snowing and I'll be able to see your artwork. I really look forward to seeing them. I was also thinking about doing something like art community type of event on Instagram, such as draw it in your style, or something like a week of art prompt, so we can draw every day together for that week. I don't know if anyone would be interested in joining. If you are, please let me know in a comment. I'll be very excited to host one in the future. That's it. Goodbye.